Thank you very much for coming, first of all. Our first question to our visitors here, can you say a few words about what you're doing and what your company is doing, actually?
Sure. So my name is Suzanne. I'm Chief Marketing Officer at eTouches, and we are a full-scale event management software platform that we serve the global market of associations, corporations, nonprofits, higher education, agencies, etc. And we're here to exhibit. Yeah.
And how do you see a lot of technologies now entering the market? What's your favorite one for this year?
Favorite new technology, aside from eTouches, you mean? Certainly our product is my favorite product. But yeah, there's some really exciting things out on the market that are really bordering now on experiential. And my favorite things personally, I have a social marketing background, but my favorite is a new product called social123.com that helps you to append the social data onto your attendee registration data. So you can actually really target who you're trying to talk to. I talked about it in an earlier session today during EIBTM, and it was very well received, and I think that's some of the future of what we're looking at, how to really target high net worth attendees.
And how do you see the future of conference and events business relating to technology? What will be next in 5 years?
5 years, I don't even think in 5 years, in 3 years, it's really getting to be an experiential type of event. So it will far more start online in a virtual capacity, far more than it is now. This will be a very fluid environment where people really coming, and the time that they spend together face to face is really going to be based on not meeting and greeting anymore, not originally starting to sit down with a hosted buyer you've never met before. It's going to be for real relationship building and just continuing those relationships. I think technology will just be far more ubiquitous. It will be all over the place. You'll be able to do all of your check-in processes. You'll be able to do any of your updates. All of your content will be readily available to you ahead of time. You'll have far more time to be able to connect with attendees ahead of time. And so again, spending your time. And I think the big thing is that most event planners, most in the industry, the focus is still on the live event, and then the pre-event is still about attendee generation. So there's a lot of time still spent there, a lot of time on live, and as soon as the live event is done, everything stops. I really think the shift is going to be towards the technologies and the techniques for how to do the communication, how to really reap the benefits of all the investment you put into that live event, post-event. And that's going to happen in the virtual space. I think that's going to be a really interesting development in that area.
But do you still think that it will be impossible to substitute totally the live events and face-to-face conversations?
No, I think there's no substitution for live events. Actually, I predict that we'll see an increase, as we're seeing, because being able to connect virtually and building rapport, in a virtual environment actually increases the demand for being live. So the two actually quite complement each other. I think we're going to see the barriers. I think largely event planners have been scared that these two are competing. Virtual and live are somehow competing, instead of understanding how they can complement one another and how you can actually drive up demand for the live event by being able to actually employ these techniques very skillfully, again, pre and post event. And I think that's the key. I think that's just new to this industry, and people are starting to say, how can we really do something that I can pull in the social media, pull in the mobile, create an experience, then turn it viral, tell people, continue those conversations, and look at the influence and engagement it has.
And what advice would you give for the event planners in using the technology?
My advice is always the same. Take 1 hour. They usually don't have more than that. Very busy people, I get it. Take 1 hour, get a glass of wine, have a coffee, whatever it might be, and stop saying why you can't do it, and think about what it could be if you have employed all these, if you had the data, if you knew everything there was to know about your attendee, if you didn't have to guess, if your attendees were telling you, here's the type of education I want, here's the type of networking I want, here's how I want to spend my time, in what format, and how I want to be educated or be talked to or be treated at the event. Go out and look at that and say, if I had that data, what would my event look like? Because I'm pretty sure it would look very different than what you're probably currently doing, which is likely just a repetition of what's happened in the past that was based on strategy of risk mitigation, right? So, so if you could instead say, we're not going to mitigate risk, we're going to maximize experience, what is that? That's a different framework. What does my event look like if I come from that perspective and just play with it. Take an hour. There's no risk in taking an hour, 1 hour, and just try to map it out on paper, but start thinking about the data that you have now. Think about strategically about the people and how much do you really know about them. Can you gather more information about them? And can you craft, better experiences for perhaps just, one segment of your attendee population? It might be too overwhelming to try to come up with something unique for everyone. Maybe pull out one segment and say, if we did something slightly different this next time around, what kind of impact would that have? And how can we, again, how can we leverage that post-event and in the future?
And is there any way to escape this moment? Sometimes the events are overloaded with technology, or the technology shouldn't be there. It's new, it's everywhere. Oh, let's use that. Is there any way to have this the right way, the perfect level of technology in the event?
Yeah,
not too much, not too much.
I'm a marketer, right? So there's only one answer, and that is your opinion is useless, is irrelevant. It does not matter. It is the only thing that matters is the people you're targeting. So really, again, being able to understand in your population who are the groups and do they behave differently? Because they probably do. There's maybe a group that really loves technology. They want to have quick 20-minute sessions, maybe 7-minute sessions, very highly technologically enabled, etc. You might have another group that hates that. They want deep dive, no technology, paper and pen, being able to draw, have some time for reflection, etc. All are okay. We need to understand the different modalities of how people learn within our population, right? So that's kind of first and foremost. So you need to, again, I think that's, we're moving away from a mass marketing approach, mass education approach, and moving into a niche marketing, a niche segmentation approach. So you need to take each one of those segments and say, now, I have this population, this subpopulation, what's the right environment for them? What is the food that they want? What is the technology that they want? What's the education for them? How do they want to network? What can I do to support, their end goals? And you might have then 5, 6 different strategies within your overall event. Completely changes your pre-event marketing, completely changes perhaps your live event setup, format, programs, etc., and post-event. But what it can do is radically increase, your return and the feedback that you're getting from these people. That's a big shift. I think that is the 5-year future, right? is being able to go to that type of a framework and understand how to do that type of marketing effectively. So I do think, I definitely think there's a case where, I'm in a technology company. I might not always want to be technologically connected because it might take away from my focus if I really need to do a deep dive and concentrate. So it's all contextual, right? It depends is the answer. So it depends what's going to be appropriate for the purpose and for that attendee base and what's going to fit their needs.
And can you say a few words how you started this journey with technology in the events industry? Where did you shift from?
In the events industry specifically or overall? I think people can relate to me. I'll tell you even more than that. I'll go farther back. I hate technology. and it's so funny because I've always been in technology, right? So I've always been in software, and it's so funny. So I relate to the people who are a little bit technophobic. I actually went all the way, I'll date myself, but I went all the way through college with still a typewriter. I didn't have to, but I was convinced I didn't need computers, So the internet came out when I was in, somewhere in undergraduate school. And, I thought it was useful for applying to graduate school, and that was about it. I wasn't the early adopter of chat rooms, or I saw no purpose of this. And so ironically, and my studies have always focused on people and human populations and understanding their motivations and understanding how to influence them on adoption, particularly. So what's interesting is I've been able to take that academic background and apply it always to technology for helping people to adopt technology. Because when it comes to technology adoption, which, by the way, in the events industry, nobody ever talks about, right? This is one of the downsides, because technology, people, let's just, do this, let's use mobile. But the question is anybody adopting it, right? So it's only useful if people use it. So the key there is that if you look at, adoption, there's a slice of your population that will always use the technology, and you don't need to worry about them. They're taken care of. The event people need to worry about the part of the, the population, the big part that they don't they're not the early adopters of technology, and how you can educate them to do that. So my career has been spent actually in taking the academic principles of kind of social acceptance and adoption and influence and applying it to technology, to software. And so over the course of my career, I've always worked in software, working with different industries, different populations, and trying to get them to adopt software. So for the event people, now that I'm in the event industry, I would say the biggest thing is to understand, right, who the population is, understand that not all, actually the majority of them don't think it's hip and cool and great, you know, and that it's a bit of a hindrance and it can be a disruptor and it takes time. And then craft what's the value proposition for them, you know, why do it? And they are not very clear on why they should use the technology. And then don't act like technology is really that cool. Technology is everywhere now. I mean, it's, you know, it's fundamental, and don't be scared of it. Somehow we trust Facebook and Google every day, but like we're, you know, skeptical about technology in our event. If we just say it's ubiquitous, it's how everybody works, now let's get back to business of what people want to learn and who they want to connect with, and then just use the tools to focus in on that. But don't focus on the technology, still focus on the value and what you're trying to deliver.
And what is your experience in IBTM this year? Do you like it? How has it gone so far?
Yeah, so this is actually my first EIBTM. Exactly. I've been to other IBTMs, so this is my first EIBTM. But it's been great. I mean, what I've really noticed. So I go to a lot of the, you know, we work globally, and I've gone to many of the global shows. What I've seen, so I've been at eTouches for 2.5 years, and what I've seen systematically is an increase in the level of interest and excitement and enthusiasm about just the transformation of events, just the event industry. When I first started, I think there was resistance to change. There was a lot of people kind of talking about, oh, we should have hybrid events and we should do these other formats. People very skeptical, like, I don't know about this, you know, I don't know how that's going to work for me. Social media, very skeptical. And now people are really asking the questions of, okay, it's not, the technology is not new anymore. The real relevant question of how do I apply it to my event to get some sort of greater purpose out of it. And I've seen that just tremendously increase over the last 2.5 years. And I've seen it even more so today in EIBTM.
Thank you very much. Thanks. I'm sorry for all those walkings over there.